kids or adults alike. Let me read it first and then we'll talk about why, okay? You guys ready? Cookie thief. A woman was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book but happened to see that the man beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. She munched cookies and watched the clock as this gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie, she took one too, and when only one was left, she wondered what he'd do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also so rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat, then sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned with despair, then the others were his and he tried to share? Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. Now I say that because when you find your purpose, and I don't know how many of you guys want to be a business owner versus maybe an employee. I don't know what you want to do with your life, but as a business owner, one of the most powerful things I've done to create a successful business, and I've copied and watched others do, is form relationships with people, unbreakable relationships, by giving and never being the cookie thief. There are a lot of times in your life, I bet you have friendships, you have friends that have taken from you and they don't realize it. They could be taking your time in some way. They could be talking nonstop, not letting you get a word in, not letting you vent whatever it is, and you sit there and think, man, they just keep taking from me. Or maybe they're literally taking from you. They're borrowing things and not giving them back. It could be any number of things. But that friendship eventually becomes one-sided, right? And you're over here and you're like, man, I'm thinking of this person as a taker, and they're taking, and they're taking. Meanwhile, they're not even aware of it over here. Have you ever experienced that? Or have you ever been on the opposite side where you're taking from somebody and you don't realize it and they bring it up to you at some point? You're like, gosh, I wasn't even aware I took that. Whether it was their time, or maybe you borrowed something and didn't give it back. There's something called perception versus reality. One person's perception of what's going on is often not the reality of it. And let me give you a quick example from my life. I have a great friend now that I've been friends with since we were in our early 20s. And that was only a couple short years ago. How old do you think I am? 24. I like that answer better. I'm 34, okay? So I've been friends with him for a good amount of time. We used to box, we used to wrestle, do like MMA, we did martial arts. And I've known him for such a long time and had a great camaraderie because we train hard, we sweat hard. When you have that, for anybody that are athletes and you have that camaraderie with somebody, it's just a different friendship. And recently, he brought it up to me about a year and a half ago or so. We were just talking, and I was astounded. It came out of nowhere. He started telling me, he's like, hey, I was really upset with you about 10 years ago. Like, he's still thinking this, right? 10 years ago, he was upset with me. And he starts explaining why. He's like, man, you don't realize that you take. And I'm like, what? Like, I feel like I'm a giver. My martial arts school is open. I let people use it. I give to them. I give instruction. I feel like I give and I give, I give. And I don't know, my friend, my very close friend, is thinking in his head, looking at me, that I'm taking. He says, James, there's times like, man, we would be driving somewhere and you're always asking me to drive. You're using my gas money. You never you never offered to give any money back. I was always doing stuff and having to pay for it. And he gives me a bunch of examples. I'm sitting here, I'm like, really? I had no idea he felt this way.